think that last song is a prayer in itself. I absolutely love it. I must thank Sammy for choosing the songs, as per usual when I'm leading. Let's just take a moment of stillness. God, you have brought us here. It is you that we are seeking. God, you are part of us, and we are part of you. May our lives be a blessing, knowing that we see you. We've got 2 readings today. Sammy is going to do one of them for me, and then Ali is going to do the other one. So, Sammy, do you have the mic? Yes. So, Sammy, if you can read the first reading, please. That's not on. It's on there.
Yeah, no. This is Ruth chapter 1, verses 1 to 18. Long ago, in the days before Israel had a king, there was a famine in the land. So a man named Elimelech, who belonged to the clan of Ephrath, and who lived in Bethlehem in Judah, went with his wife Naomi and their 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion to live for a while in the country of Moab. While they were living there, Elimelech died, and Naomi was left alone with her 2 sons, who married Moabite girls, Ophrah and Ruth. About 10 years later, Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left all alone, without husband or sons. Some time later, Naomi heard that the Lord had blessed his people by giving them a good harvest, so she got ready to leave Moab with her daughters-in-law. They started out together to go back to Judah, but on the way she said to them, "Go back home and stay with your mothers. May the Lord be as good to you as you have been to me and to those who have died. And may the Lord make it possible for each of you to marry again and have a home." So Naomi kissed them goodbye, but they started crying and said to her, "No, we will go with you back to your people." "You must go back, my daughters," Naomi answered. "Why do you want to come with me? Do you think I could have sons again for you to marry? Go back home, for I am too old to get married again. Even if I thought there was still hope, and so got married tonight and had sons, would you wait until they'd grown up? Would this keep you from marrying someone else? No, my daughters, you know that's impossible. The Lord has turned against me, and I feel very sorry for you." Again they started crying. Then Ophrah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye and went back home, but Ruth held on to her. So Naomi said to her, "Ruth, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her. Go back home with her." But Ruth answered, "Don't ask me to leave you. Let me go with you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and that is where I will be buried. May the Lord's worst punishment come upon me if anything but death separate me from you." When Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she said nothing more.
Thank you, Sam. We're going to have, I know that's a fairly long reading, but we're going to have the other reading straight afterwards, which is a lot shorter. Then Ali's going to read that for us.
So the next reading is Mark 12, verses 28 to 34. A teacher of the law was there who heard the discussion. He saw that Jesus had given the Sadducees a good answer, so he came to him with a question. "Which commandment is the most important of all?" Jesus replied, "The most important one is this. Listen, Israel. The Lord our God is the only Lord. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second most important commandment is this. Love your neighbour as you love yourself. There is no other commandment more important than these two. The teacher of the law said to Jesus, "Well done, teacher. It is true, as you say, that only the Lord is God, and that there is no other God but He. And you must love God with all your heart, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. And you must love your neighbour as you love yourself. It is more important to obey these two commandments than to offer on the altar animals and other sacrifices to God." Jesus noticed how wise his answer was, and so he told him, "You are not far from the kingdom of God." After this, nobody dared to ask Jesus any more questions.
Thank you, Anne. So, the book of Ruth. How many people have read the book of Ruth? Yeah, some of you, some of you not. Okay. Half. There's a half sign there. That was half. That was a. So the book of Ruth is a really interesting one because obviously, weirdly, it is about Ruth. And there aren't that many stories in the Bible that are purely about women.
You ready?
That person disagreed, apparently. But there we go. Rebecca, what are you doing?
I'm trying to get the slide to move on.
Oh, don't worry about it, it's fine. So anyway, Ruth is there, and Naomi is there. She has a very bad time. Her husband dies, her 2 sons die, and Ruth and Oprah are with her through this bad time. And they make this decision, or they say that Naomi says, "Do you know what? I can't do anything more for you. You know, please go. Please just go back to your mothers, and hopefully you'll be able to marry again if the God is willing, and you'll be able to, get some money because I can't provide for you." And both of the daughters say, "No, we're going to stay, we're going to stay." And she's very clear, Naomi is very clear, and she says, "No, you must go back. I can't provide anything for you anymore." And Oprah goes, "Okay, bye." That's the short answer to that. And Ruth says, "No, wherever you go, I will go." So queer theologists will say that there is an intimate relationship between Ruth and Naomi, that perhaps the love for them is so deep, and that is why Ruth stays. But queer theology doesn't always mean that there has to be some kind of sexual or intimate relationship. Just because there is a queer relationship doesn't mean that that's part of it. The whole book of Ruth is about a power dynamic and about a non-patriarchal story. So Ruth and Naomi don't have to listen to their husbands because they're dead. They don't have to listen to anyone else. They are free to make their own decisions. And that's actually quite unusual in the Bible, because as we all know, a lot of the stories are about men, and even if the women are in the Bible because they're important enough, they're just and Delilah, and Patricia, and whoever else, okay? So it's quite rare. They don't have the status of mother-daughter-in-law anymore because Naomi and Ruth's husbands have died, so they can't have that. They're not legally bound to each other, but they choose to remain together. And that's the important bit. And therefore, the proclamation that Ruth makes seems that there is a need to stay together, a choice, a need to stay rather than a want, for whatever that may be. So the companionship that these two people share is remarkable. And it's worth a read if you have not read the book of Ruth. It is significant in this 1,000-year-old text that we have that story. The second reading that we had, please do look into the queer theology and the book of Ruth. You will find a lot of stuff on the internet that I don't need to go into right now. But the second story that we've got refers to one of the teachers talking to Jesus and asking about the commandments. Now, how many of you can name all 10 commandments from the Old Testament? Anybody? Go on, let's name some. What have we got? Honour your God. Honour your father and your mother. Say? No other gods before me. Shall not kill, yeah.
Keep the Sabbath.
Keep the Sabbath, no adultery. 6. Shall not steal. Don't covet neighbours or whatever. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. We've got the Sabbath one ready. What's that? I can't hear you, sorry. I believe we've had don't make idols, don't make idols. Correct? We haven't had that one, have we? No. There you go, there's the 10. Okay? That took a number of us to kind of try and get there with it. I think from a queer perspective, from an LGBTQ plus perspective, one of the ones there that's probably the hardest is honour the father and the mother. Given some of the relationships that we've had and we know we've had, that's going to be difficult for people in this room. Some people in this room, sorry. But in the New Testament, Jesus is saying that there's only 2 commandments. He's saying that these are the most important ones. So one of them is love God, basically, that with all your heart, with all your soul. He's the only thing that matters. I prefer God as a they, so from now on, regardless of what it says there, but anyway. And the second one is love thy neighbour as yourself. So those are the 2 most important ones. And what Jesus is saying here is that all of those 10 commandments, we don't need to kind of worry so much because we can focus on these 2 now. Okay? So in terms of the 2, love your neighbour as yourself. Has anyone heard of the golden rule? There's a few nods out there. So the
which golden rule?
The golden rule states, treat others as you want to be treated. And it comes from that reading. Okay? And that reading we read from Mark, but is also in Matthew and is also in Luke. So it's obviously extremely important. It's words that Jesus spoke. From the golden rule, anyone heard of the silver rule? No, okay. I'm not going to test you later, don't worry. This is like the negative version of the golden rule. So that the silver rule says, do not treat others the way you would not like them to treat you. Okay? And the reason that this came out is because somebody looked at the golden rule and said, well, how do you know how somebody wants to be treated at all times? Or in any given moment? How do you know how somebody wants to be treated? So they said it's better to think of it the other way round and don't treat them like you would not want to be treated. Can you see some sense in that? There is some sense in that. I'm getting there. Then there's the bronze rule. The bronze rule is a companion to the golden rule, and it basically says, if they're not bothering you, don't bother them. Which is nice, I think. I think that's a nice rule to live by. However, somebody has gone to the golden rule and they've said, okay, treat others as you want to be treated. If I'm stood here and standing right next to me is a right-wing fundamentalist Christian, and they're going to treat me how they want to be treated, do you think I am going to be treated how I want to be treated? No, probably not. Because I would imagine that this person is going to look at me and say, oh, you need to repent your sin, and you need to, I don't know, wash your mouth out with soap, say 10 Hail Marys, whatever it is that I need to do, because of who I am. And therefore, the golden rule doesn't work for everybody. So somebody came up with a platinum rule. Keep it up. The platinum rule is do unto others as they'd like to be done to them. So there's a difference there. The golden rule is treat others as you want to be treated. The platinum rule is basically treat others as they'd like to be treated. And I think when it comes to our community, I think that's quite important. One of the first rules we say, for example, is don't assume. If you want to know someone's, I don't know why you want to know someone's sexuality, but if you want to know their sexuality or you want to know their gender, you can ask. If you want to know their pronouns, you can ask, you don't assume. So just going back slightly, I'm not even going to bother with the iron rule, just going back slightly to Ruth. I'll tell you in a minute. Did Ruth stay because they loved Naomi? Did Ruth stay because she was treating Naomi as she wanted to be treated? If you were Ruth, would you have stayed? Whether you queer it or not, would you have stayed with Naomi, who now had no husband, no sons, and is telling her daughter-in-laws to disappear? So the discussion questions that we've got, if Rebecca moves on one slide. So exactly what I just said. If you were Ruth, would you have stayed or not, and why? And in brackets I've put you can choose the queer theology or not. So you can choose that route, or you can choose to ignore it. The second question is, do you have any rules or sayings that you live by? And what do they mean to you? And then the third one is, do you prefer the golden or the platinum rule? And do you think being Christian and queer or allies influences this? So you remember the golden rule is treat others as you want to be treated, and the platinum rule is treat others as they would like to be treated. And I'll just give you an example of rules that people live by. I've got two rules that I live by, which completely contradict each other. One of them is to always regret the things I do, rather than regret the things I don't do. My second rule is never regret anything. Because everything that I've done in my life, at that moment in time, I did for a reason. There must have been a good reason why I did it, and it has made me who I am today. And therefore, it basically says, what those two will say to me is, I'm going to do what I want when I do it, and I'm not going to regret it. So think about whether you have them as well. We're going to say goodbye to our online community. Please do have a look at these questions and maybe put them in the chat or type them in the box below. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. God bless. For those of us that are staying, we're going to